Good morning, Facebook family. We are here in our new office spaces in Charlotte, North Carolina, getting settled in. I know many of you have been following from around the nation, and just want to thank you for all your prayers and your support. Really excited about being in North Carolina, already picking up on a lot of the spiritual activity on the East Coast, and just excited to see what God has in store in the days and years ahead. I wanted to jump on here this morning and just share a prophetic dream that I had last night concerning the end times. And I know a lot of the dreams and the visions that I get end up getting published in a blog format, a written edition. But I just had a special burden from the Lord today just to jump on live and just share a little bit from my heart and from my experiences. It was a dream where I just woke up with just tears streaming down my face as God was talking to me, and just wanted to share a word of encouragement, what really matters most in a time of crisis. I know for myself, I have been actively working with prophetic people on a really close basis for the last 13 years now. I have done so many trainings around the world and interacted with so many different types of prophets and prophetic people, intercessors. And one thing that stands out to me the most about the prophets and the prophetic people is that they're burden bearers. And a lot of times prophetic people have a hard time separating the difference between their emotions and the burden of God, and just learning how to be a good steward of the burden of God is a real challenge. And I, again, have had a front row challenge, a front row seat, if you will, to the challenge that prophets and prophetic people have, trying to be good stewards of the Lord, feeling the burden. They're so, fast forward to 2020, and we're living in a year where it's so unpredictable, and there's so much happening in the atmosphere. And a lot of prophetic people, there's a struggle right now. I mean, and you get online and people are, they're giving all sorts of prophecies, and they're posting all sorts of articles about, the next, the next crisis, the next famine, the next, and so it's just this, so if you're a prophetic person, a prophet, an intercessor, I mean, you're kind of like geeking out every day. And, this dream that I had last night, I was standing before the Lord, and I felt like this was more of standing in his counsel. And I was observing different people going before him and him interacting with them. And I felt like I was in the company of a lot of prophetic people in this dream. And as we began to get closer to the Lord, he began to inquire of people about how they were faithful in the end times. And a lot of people that I could hear began to say to the Lord, I've been faithful to sound the alarm. I've been faithful to warn. I've been faithful to, just spread the word and let people know, what's coming. And none of that moved the heart of God. None of that impressed him. None of that caught his attention. And then the Lord asked this question in the dream, but have you been faithful to your marriage? Have you been faithful to your children? And it was like there was deafening silence in heaven when God asked this question. And again, I'm just, for those of you jumping online, I'm sharing a dream that I had last night on 7/7. a dream where I was taken before the council of the Lord, and I felt like I was in the company of watchmen and intercessors and prophets, and we were each going before the Lord, and many people got before the Lord, and they were talking about, I've been faithful to warn about the plagues and about the dangers and all of these things, and none of that moved the heart of God at all. None of it got his attention. None of that kind of faithfulness. God answered back in the dream, but have you been faithful to your marriage? Have you been faithful to your children? And I'm not talking about infidelity. I'm more talking about, are you giving them your love, your attention? And this phrase came to me in the dream last night where the Lord said to me, in the end times, it does not mean that marriages and families have to end. God said to me in this dream last night, in the end times, referencing times of shaking and crisis prior to the return of Jesus Christ, in the end times, marriages and families do not have to end. And the Lord just asked this question, have you learned how to love? And I want to go back to, as intercessors and prophets and prophetic people, when you get hit with a burden, you become obsessed with what's happening in the news and what's coming next and the 2020, who's going to win, Biden or Trump. And it's just almost like you've got to be careful as a prophet, a prophetic, and intercessor that you don't give in and cave into something, honestly, that could cost you your marriage and your family. And so I really feel that the Lord wants to encourage so many of us that feel the burden, that are concerned about the days ahead, that if you're going to be concerned and you're going to be burdened about future events, be very careful that in a desire to connect to the future, that you don't lose touch with the present. And I sense, there's a real demonic attack against marriages and families right now that's hitting a lot of prophets and intercessors. We're so burdened about the future that we lose touch with our marriage and our family. And when we stand before the Lord on that great day, I'm just telling you, if the dream that I had on 7/7 has any truth to it about what it's going to look like when we stand before him, standing before the Lord and saying, I warned America about future judgments and earthquakes and hurricanes, but then the Lord is going to say, yeah, but you didn't love and give any attention to your spouse. Yeah, but your kids didn't even know who you were because you were walled up praying about some future event. That we've got to do better, folks. So just wanted to give a shout out to the prophets, the intercessors, the watchmen. Again, I'm with you. I'm daily burdened for the things that are to come. But at the end of the day, if we really want to make an impact on eternity, the way that we can do that the most is healthy marriage and family. Jesus said in Matthew 24, the love of most will grow cold. We oftentimes think about the world and, listen, folks, the love of even prophets and intercessors can grow cold in your marriage and in your family. And maybe for some of you, you've got to shut down the news. You've got to shut down the what you're calling prophetic is paranoia and fear and suspicion. Push back, take a deep breath, go on vacation with your family, take your spouse on a date night. Take a deep breath. What matters the most in the sight of God is, did you know and learn how to love? God bless you guys tuning out from Charlotte, North Carolina, our new home. God bless you and thank you so much. I'll be in West Virginia this weekend. If there are any folks watching, I'll be preaching in Fairmont, West Virginia at Covenant Church this Sunday, morning and night. You can go on our page and join us there, find out the details. God bless you guys.